Hello, Southwest Florida homeowners and homebuyers. Welcome to the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast, your go-to source for navigating the vibrant real estate landscape of our beautiful region. I'm your host, Kevin Tremmel, a local real estate agent, leader, and investor here in Southwest Florida. On this podcast, we bring you insights from best in the business, top-notch real estate professionals, seasoned agents, and experts in everything from homeowners insurance to mortgages, maintenance, and repairs. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned homeowner, we've got you covered with tips, strategies, and valuable insights to make your journey in Southwest Florida's real estate market a breeze. Get ready to unlock the doors to successful home ownership. This is the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast, where we demystify the process, share insider knowledge, and ensure you're well equipped to make informed decisions. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce to you Jack Breyman. Jack specializes in seasonal rentals in Lee and Collier County. He's also a Naples local with a ton of local real estate knowledge. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for your time here today. Why don't we get started as usually on this podcast? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? What's your real estate story? How did you get into real estate? Why did you get into real estate? Give us the scoop.
So I got into real estate roughly about 13 years ago. After college, I realized the degree I was going for, I wasn't going to be using. I wasn't interested in it. So joined up with my uncle who was working with Berkshire Hathaway at the time. And then after about a year, realized it wasn't working out there and decided to join Jesse and Mark with the Domain Group. And subsequently from there, worked my way into a position to manage the seasonal rentals for our brokerage. Kind of been going there for now 12 years now. So this is coming up on our 12th season, doing seasonal rentals everywhere from South Naples all the way up to South Fort Myers and Southwest Cape Coral.
Awesome. So you've been with Domain, the Domain Group before they were their own brokerage for 12 years, or you've been in real estate for 12 years, or you've been with...
No, I've been with them for 12 years. I was with Berkshire Hathaway the year prior.
Okay, gotcha. So
13 years now.
13 years, short stint at Berkshire, and then with the Domain Group.
Correct.
Okay, cool, awesome. And I'm in a similar boat as you. So with your degree, did you finish it, or you just, while you were doing it, you already realized this is just not going to be it for me? Like how
I did not finish it. I realized it was not going to be it for me, and realized there's no sense of wasting the time doing that.
Yeah. Well, you saved some money then, I guess, compared to me, because I graduated. And since I graduated, I haven't used what I studied in college probably one day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, probably a good decision on your end then, because I'm in the same boat. But for me, it was a little different. When I graduated, I actually had plans to go into that field. I majored in finance. So my goal was to, move to Miami or New York or LA and basically work for JP Morgan Chase, and then got my license just as a little, to kill some time kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And, real estate gripped me and never let go, so to speak, right? I mean, you know how it is once you, especially down in Collier County where, your average sales price is 5, 6, 7, 800,000, probably more for most people, but it's hard to escape those commission checks, right? As I'm sure you know. So, what do you feel has been, I guess, as far as rentals versus, sale, the resale side? I kind of want to touch base on that a little bit, or touch on that a little bit. What are you seeing? What are the differences with that? Being in that specialization, what are some similarities? Obviously, at the end of the day, it's still real estate, but it's just, I'm assuming maybe there's a little bit less emotion involved because people are just renting it for a year or a couple months, or just shed some light on that for us, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's less emotion involved, especially right now with the market not being as strong as it was a couple years ago, with insurance increasing. People are watching and they're wanting to get rid of a second or third property that they may have. But unfortunately, they're still stuck with, in some cases, mortgage payments and things like that they're trying to have to cover. Unfortunately, rental rates have gone down, followed the sales market. They're kind of intertwined with that. And with that, we've seen an abundance of rental properties, annual and seasonal, come up. Unfortunately, the amount of demand, I don't think has increased nor decreased, just the amount of supply. And with that, force some prices down. So when it comes to emotion, people are still having to kind of come to thoughts with, do I have to eat $100 a month for the next year or so to be able to keep the property, or to be able to come back and wait for the market to come back? Or do I try to get as much as possible? And when you try to get as much as possible, especially in a market like this, you tend to sit vacant, and it costs you money on the back end versus being able to take a couple $100 less to be able to get the property rented out. So I think the emotion is the same. It's just what they're looking at, whether they're going to end up selling a property for less money than they purchased it for, or they're going to rent the property for less money than it's actually costing them to be able to hold on to the property per month. I find it is real estate. The numbers are just different. They're going to be smaller versus you get a sales price versus a rental rate. So the emotions are still there. The emotions are still high, especially for some people who the properties are still severely overpriced and they've been sitting vacant for a while. Mm-hmm. Owners won't budge on the price, and unfortunately we get the brunt of that type of aggravation, because in their mind we haven't done our job yet. But unfortunately we can't control what the owner is willing to take.
Yeah, interesting. And so you said, as far as like demand goes, that has really not changed, neither positively or negatively. It's just the supply has changed. So obviously that puts a downward pressure on the price. Now, do you guys also do property management, or is it just like rental listings? Or
we do the management aspect. That's the majority of what we do. We do handle just tenant placement, just the listing of the property and making sure it gets filled. But the majority of what we do is going to be on the management side. So we manage the renters while they're in place, their phone calls, any questions they have. On the seasonal side, the majority of the maintenance issues we get are the small things: smoke detector batteries, light bulbs, things like that. Not big issues. But it's being hands-on with those types of people and showing up and making sure they are feeling like they're getting taken care of.
Okay. On the seasonal rental side, do you see a lot of like repeat clients? Like, for example, John from Chicago comes down every year to Naples. Mm-hmm. Are they renting the same unit like kind of every year? Or like, is it more like they just call you and say, what do you have available? Or like, how shed some light on that?
I would say it's a mixture of both. We've got renters who have been renting the same property for the last 5 years. They've never left. They've paid. They've gone through the rental rate increases that we saw over the past few years. They've also now seen the benefit of the rental rate decrease in order to keep them in place. Because at the end of the day, people have more options. It's not as like it was 10 years ago, where people weren't really going on to Zillow and they didn't really see everything that's out there. Now, between Airbnb, VRBO, homes.com, apartments.com, all these different websites, everybody can see everything that's on the market. And when you look at those maps, it's nothing but green listing dots. So we've got renters who will come to us looking for either a specific property to re-rent the same property. We've had some that try out different areas depending on where they want to be, where they want to eventually purchase and retire. Try out different communities, whether it's a bundled golf community because they like golfer, or they like to golf, or it's a private golf community. So people will kind of use seasonal rentals as a stepping stone to get down here for retirement and future purchases. But then we've also seen the people who will only rent down here. They have no intentions of ever buying down here. They don't care about paying the increases, because at the end of the day, they're looking at it as they're not leaving a headache or a hassle to a family member when it comes time for them to either have to sell the property, somebody passes away, somebody gets injured, that type of thing. So they look at it as they're able to get the benefit of renting the property and kind of feel the ownership, because they stay and rent in the property year after year after year for anywhere between 3 and 5 months. But they don't have to worry about the headache and hassle after they leave.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to come in, enjoy it, but leave with no hassle.
Cool. Yeah. And it sounds like it's definitely it's cool, because like when you said you got to be on top, like earlier with the maintenance, right? Like light bulbs, smoke detectors. I guess it's like very customer service oriented, because if you do a good job, they'll come back and rent either that unit or at least like rent from you when next season comes. So that's pretty.
They're spending I mean, in the majority of the cases, they're spending anywhere between $15,000 to $60,000 to
Yeah.
come down here for 3 to 4 months every single year.
Yeah.
So they want to be able to feel like they're getting that type of service. And it's the small things, the replacing of the smoke detector batteries or the light bulbs or being on top of TV issues, things like that. That's what they want to see. At the end of the day, we want them to come down and relax and not have to worry about those things so that they can go out. And if they report an issue to us, they'll go out and play golf. And by the time they get back, the issue's already resolved.
Yeah, that's cool. Have you seen, and then you were kind of saying, some of your renters, they have no intention of ever buying down here, right? Have you seen that share of people that never want to buy down here? Have you seen that increase ever since, like, let's say Irma, Ian, Milton, Helene? Have you kind of seen people be like, I'm good. I'm just gonna spend XYZ dollars every year, and that beats paying thousands of dollars in insurance and beats replacing a roof every five. Like, have you seen that share kind of go up or not really?
Luckily, no. We've seen more people come in with intentions of purchasing in the future.
Okay.
Not so much with the intentions of never purchasing. The majority of the renters that come in, they have the intention of wanting to purchase. Very few people want to be able to just be renters, but those are the people that exist, and those are great renters to have. Eventually, your renter is going to leave to go and purchase something else. So the more renters you have that never want to purchase anything, the more business that you can consistently keep with inside your book and keep the rentals that you manage rented
Right.
every single year, because those people are not going to go anywhere.
Interesting. I find that interesting that it has an increase, but I also find it, as a realtor myself, I also find it, and I have some real estate investments, so I find it good news. But
Yeah.
I also find it, I wasn't expecting that answer, I guess. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to the renters kind of transitioning into selling, is that then something that I'm sure it stays within domain, but like you as, Jack, are you able to capitalize on that, or are you
I am in certain situations. So with the position that I've taken, we are not in the business of stealing clients from other realtors. So if another realtor places a renter in our rentals, we're not going to go out there and try to sell them a property.
Okay.
Vice versa. If somebody refers us a landlord, we're not going to go and try to sell that property to somebody else. We automatically refer back to that agent that either referred the renter or referred the landlord. In some cases, agents forget about those people. They treat it as a one-time transaction and they've never talked to them. They haven't talked to them in the past 3-4 years. So we have that relationship built with those renters. So we are able to step in and be able to help them purchase a property. And we do that quite a bit every year. But at the end of the day, it will never be a client that is working with another renter or another realtor. We don't want to step on anybody's toes. We are here just solely to place renters, manage property, and then take care of the buyer and seller when they come up. But it's very few and far between.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, but because I was going to say, like, I'm sure there's situations where, especially, a lot of realtors probably like on the rental side. I mean, it's a volume game, right? On the rental side, the commissions are a lot less. So I feel like a lot of realtors on the rental side, if that's not like their specialization, they place them because they're doing someone a favor, right? And then, like you said, they see it as a like one-time transaction. So I'm sure that must happen fairly frequently. And then you are able to capitalize on that if you build that relationship for 4 or 5 years, right? But
Correct. Yeah.
Since you're also a property management company, a big chunk of your business is from other realtors, so it's a fine line, it sounds like, to kind of walk, I guess.
And because we do work in basically all of Southwest Florida, we have knowledge of all of the different areas. So through conversation with these renters, based on what they want, what their needs are, what they're looking for, we're able to recommend and refer out areas they wouldn't have thought about or wouldn't have had the idea of thinking about. And that helps out a lot in those situations when there is an open buyer that's on the market and doesn't have a relationship with a realtor. We're able to provide them with the knowledge, and they end up trusting us with that transaction for helping them buy the next property that they're looking for.
Cool. And then when it comes to the property management side, I know, property management, I have some rentals myself, and, it's small enough that I can manage it myself. And I know sometimes it can be an unforgiving business to be in when you get the call on a Sunday at 9 p.m. that, the light bulb's out kind of thing, right? Are you directly the contact person for those kind of situations, or do you have okay.
Yeah, and there are times where I will delegate one of our business partners that work with us, help show property, things like that. We'll delegate some of the listings to them, depending on where they're at, to try to help out with the workload. But for the most part, I'm the primary contact for all of the renters on the seasonal side. So when things do come up, I'm their first point of contact.
Okay. And I guess that goes back to customer service. I guess a lot of seasonal people want to see a familiar face. They don't want a new person to be their point of contact every year, right? And you've been there 12 years. So I guess that's a lot of people probably like the consistency in that, and that there's a real person behind the name and the number and
yeah, exactly. And there's people I've never met I've worked with them for 5, 6, 7 years. I've never met them face to face.
Yeah.
Very few owners I actually physically meet. The majority of renters I meet just because I'm the one going over there making sure everything is good to go for them.
Okay, cool. And then want to switch gears a little bit. You touched on it earlier a little bit, like kind of market trends, and that the rental market also follows the sales market. And, one thing I found interesting that you said earlier, because I feel like, I say this to all my clients, especially the sellers, when you said, the renters or the customers or the buyers or the clients, they're just getting a lot more educated, because I feel like our industry is just getting more and more digitalized, right? And I always say, like, every person in America can basically see every listing in America in their pajamas at 10 p.m. at night on Zillow, right? So people are naturally becoming way more educated on what does a good deal look like, right? I feel like the days of, broker Bob and broker John sends broker Bob a listing and says, hey, I just got this is a good deal, and then like broker Bob pushes it out to like his base, right? And they kind of take his word for it that it's a good deal. Like, those days are kind of gone, right? Because people shop online. They're the buyers, the consumers becoming more educated. So that's definitely a trend I'm seeing as well. But what kind of other trends are you seeing in our market down here in Southwest Florida?
I think it depends on where you are. We are getting more people, and I don't necessarily know if it's this year. Everybody says everything from an election year, 2 hurricanes that hit in 2 weeks or something like that, interest rates, insurance, all of these things that everybody tries to say is the reason why we're going through the market that we're going through this year. One thing I will say is we're not getting the seasonal renters who are open to extending out their seasonal rental from 3 months to 4 months anymore. We're getting the opposite. We're getting them retracting. So going from 4 months or 3 months, now they're doing 2 months. I don't necessarily know if it's an economy thing, if it's what people are watching, what they're spending, but I think it's what we're going to see is more 1 month and 2 month rentals than we have seen in years past. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a 1 year thing or if it's going to be the same thing next year. It's hard to say. But what I can say is the people who booked a rental in the first part of this year essentially paid more for that rental than the people who booked it in the second half of this year.
Yeah.
With that being said, I would go out on a limb and say there's going to be more price decreases on the seasonal side that happen. But I think it depends on what happens with our sales market. Our sales market starts to pick up and more listings end up getting sold. More owners will take their properties off the rental market, put them on the sales market, sell them, and it'll help kind of relieve the pressure of the inventory that's weighing on our rental market right now. We're seeing a lot more move on the annual side, anywhere between 1,600 to 2,500. It's a more active market than if you were to go up to 3,500 to 5,500. Properties are spending more time on the market, and there's not much we can do about it. We show a property, and that renter is saying, "Yeah, we're going to go take a look at 5 other ones, and we'll let you know what we say." So we see that there is a demand, but we also see that it is being outweighed by the supply. And it's just a matter of time before it corrects itself. It's just getting through the next year to 2 years. Understand that some investment owners might end up eating $100 a month to get through the next couple of years, but there's always going to be the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I'm guessing, if you have people looking for 1 to 2 months, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would also really limit the places where they can rent, right? Because a lot of HOAs, what are you kind of seeing? Like, what's the minimum that they want a lease to be? Is it like 3 months typically?
So the majority of communities down here have a 30-day rental restriction.
Okay.
Then you have some that have 60, some that have 90. A few have 120, and then you have the crazy ones that have 2-year minimums and things like that.
Wow.
So it's a mixture of the community restrictions, the caps that communities put on the number of rentals that can happen with inside of a community really hinder a community. But it would be more of the property managers or the agents that handle seasonal rentals for them to release their 3-month minimums. Because at the beginning of the year, all of our properties have 3-month minimums. So if you try to book a rental for the month of March in March for the following year, it's going to be nearly impossible. You've got to wait for those to come up. I don't foresee the 3-month minimums going away at the beginning, but I see them trickling away as the year goes on. So rather than holding on to them until August, September, we're going to be releasing 2-month minimums in May to still try to fill the property. At the end of the day, it's all about filling the property. How much money can you generate in that 3 to 4 month period of time? Because that's what you're going to be getting. You're not going to be getting the off-season renter anymore. There's too many properties that are out there to say you're going to get it rented in the off-season. And it's going to start to get that way in season if the agents don't adjust. They've got to adjust price. You've got to adjust your minimum. If you don't, you're going to end up hindering getting that property rented. And unfortunately, sometimes it's out of their hands and owners won't do it. But the more you talk with the owner and the more you educate the owner, the easier it is for them to drop that minimum and be able to focus on other months to be able to fill that gap rather than sitting vacant. I mean, renting 2 months is better than renting 1 month.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, $2,500 is better than $0, right? So
exactly.
Okay. And so you're saying that's interesting. So you're saying oftentimes it's not with the minimums. It's not even necessarily the HOA communities. Oftentimes it's just the owners and the agents as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't always. Okay.
The majority of owners don't want to do monthly rentals. They don't want somebody in there for the month of January, the month of February, the month of March. Your wear and tear is higher. Your fees are higher because you still have to, with every lease, there's additional fees that have to be paid. So if you're writing 1 lease versus writing 3, you're going to pay more in fees on 3 leases than you will with 1.
Yeah.
But the main issue is the maintenance of the property. We find that there are renters out there that rent for 1 month and they don't necessarily treat the property the way owners would want them to be treated, whereas renters who are renting for 3 and 4 months tend to treat the property like it's their own. So wear and tear is super minimal. Properties, the majority of the time, are professionally cleaned every 2 weeks. So it's a different type of mindset for a renter. Rather than walking into a hotel, you're walking into your own property.
Right.
But with that being said, if nobody's coming up for 3 months, we have to do to get the property rented. And that's the main thing. We can hold on to it as much as possible, but at the end of the day, our time frame doesn't expand. January 1st doesn't move. So once we get into the middle of December, you're not getting somebody in there for January 1. So make your moves now so you're not forced to sit vacant or forced to only take 1 month of rental income.
Yeah, very interesting. So you're saying like 4 to 6 weeks. I guess people treat it more like an Airbnb versus like a rent, like their home. That's
Exactly. Yeah.
interesting observation. Yeah. So parties and whatever.
Not necessarily parties, because you're still renting to the same demographic. I mean,
Right.
if you look at the demographic that rents down here, they all check off the same boxes. And that's why for seasonal rentals, we're not doing background checks on the seasonal renters.
Mhm.
The communities do their own background checks.
Yeah.
But the renters are all retired or
Yeah.
part retired.
Right.
They're established individuals. At the end of the day, they have the time, but also the financial ability to come down here and spend the money on a rental property every single year. So it's not a matter of partying. It's a matter of expectations of what people think they need to do versus what they need to do. And then the other big thing is everybody thinks they're clean. So one person's definition of cleanliness is completely different than another person.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I guess you can probably tell now that I live in Fort Myers by my observation of partying. I forgot where you're at in Naples. I guess your demographic doesn't.
Yeah.
It's more like a golf, 18 holes of golf in the AM, and then maybe a happy hour early bird special in the PM. So my demographic up here can be a little different with the tenants I have in my rentals. A lot of them are in college or just graduated, or where even mom and dad are guaranteeing the lease kind of thing. So by that question, I'm sure I outed myself with where I live. So that's funny. And then I'd like to hear from you as well. What do you consider like season? Like when you say season, everybody, I guess, maybe has a little bit of their own, is there like a book? I know there's not a book, but like is there an industry standard, in your community where people say this is like the season?
Yeah, I would say there's an industry standard. It can be kind of skewed a little bit depending on who you talk to, but for the most part, your season is January, February, March. Okay. Then you have buffer months, or what I call buffer months, of November, December, and April. Mm-hmm. And then your true off season being May through October. So everybody asks if November or December or April are considered high season months. No, they're not considered high season months, but they are considered buffer months. Typically, when those get rented, you're renting January through April or December through March. You're not necessarily charging the full rental rate. If you can, great. But a lot of times we have built-in discounts that we offer for November, December, and April. So we're automatically able to say, yes, we're able to discount you $1,000 a month for November, December, and April, if those are the months that you're also choosing to rent out as well. Gotcha. It's hard because websites, Zillow, Trulia, all these different websites that post these listings, you're only able to put one rental rate. Yeah. They don't have a working calendar. Yeah. We're limited on how we're able to market on those types of websites. So with us only being able to show one type of rental rate and people asking about other months that are not in the rental rate that we're posting or showing, we're able to just immediately say, yes, this is, you get a $500 or $1,000 discount depending on the property for the month of April if they're interested in the off season, because a lot of our off season rentals are still we're still trying to fill, even though it's hit or miss and it's difficult out there. But if you're only able to show one rental rate and somebody's looking at an off-season rental, we're able to send them a property and send them what the rental rate would be for May through October. But we're not able to point them in the direction of a website that'll show them the prices for those months. And I haven't found a website out there where somebody can search a calendar on a property and be able to pull up the rental listings or the price ranges for the rental listings in the May through October period, unless it's specifically marketed for those months. Yeah,
because on the MLS, you obviously have the monthly rate, the off-season rate, and the in-season rate, right?
Yep. No more monthly rate. It's just season rate or off-season rate.
Okay. And then I think, because when I put my properties in the MLS,
you're long-term. So we've got two different styles of rental listings, long-term and short-term.
Yeah, I was just there's that like right in the beginning, long or short, and then I guess that changes how you can input price and dates.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm from Europe originally, and in the off season, are you seeing a lot of like in the traditional off season? Is it more like Europeans and maybe Canadians that would rent during the off season, like when those people maybe have like summer breaks with their children over there or something like that? Or is it just dead, like off season?
To be honest with you, I don't even know the reason. I would tell you we don't have a big European population that comes down here in the summer months, but you talk to other people and they say, yeah, they come down.
Right.
I think the main difference is how they market. I know there are brokerages out there that are set up where they have marketing platforms or marketing websites that are directed towards those individual countries like Germany, England. I think a German population is pretty big down here. I know I have a few German clients, but they're specifically targeted towards that country. Whereas our marketing is basically specifically targeted towards the United States. Gotcha. So I think that might be the big difference. I wouldn't even know how to start trying to market to the European population. I don't think we see a lot of Canadians come down here. I know I have Canadian clients that come down in the summer months to be able to use it, but I don't really see it on the rental side.
Gotcha. It's just, the business isn't geared towards that demographic. So you wouldn't.
Exactly. And the brokerages that are geared towards it, they're renting out their properties. They're not searching outside brokerage properties. They're not searching on the MLS, just like we do. If somebody contacts us about a rental, we're looking through the book of rentals that we have and we're sending them out the properties that would fit what we have. If we can't fill what we have, we're not going to start trying to fill what other people have. Yeah.
You're not taking on the renter as a client on the buy side or on the rent side. You're just
our main focus is filling our rentals. And that's basically what we do. If we run out of rentals to fill, then I guess we would start looking at other properties and searching the MLS. But until we get to that point, we'll still keep it all in-house.
Yeah, it sounds like you're not going to be at that point anytime soon in this market.
No, we're growing. We got 2 more listings that went on the market or that are going to be hitting the market. And I've got 2 new owners I've got to call to kind of talk with them about renting out their properties.
Cool. Awesome, man. And then last question. So someone sitting in, call it New Jersey right now, it's starting to get cold and snowy, rainy. They've never rented down in Naples or in Lee County, but they've always wanted to do it. What is like one point of advice that you would give somebody that's looking to rent a property down here for the first time during the winter months, besides calling you?
Oh, that's tough. What I would say is work with an agent that the property is getting managed. The owner of the property is most likely not in state. Okay. So when you do have issues, you might get funneled to a handyman, you might get funneled to somebody else. But if you're renting a property where the property manager is down here and is on his game and taking the phone calls, you're going to get better service than if you were to rent directly through an owner. I understand everybody's trying to save costs and cut costs, things like that. But you want to be able to make sure you're going to be comfortable and the property is going to represent itself from the rental listing when you move in. And in some cases, owners will do the very bare minimum when it comes to everything small, the number of towels, number of bed sheets, number of cups you have in the pantry, the number of forks and spoons. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, the property is going to be set up appropriately for you. And if you're renting through a good management company, if there is something that's missing, they're going to provide it for you. If it's a coffee maker that stopped working, or if there's not enough cups, that property manager should be able to have the cups dropped off to you within 24 hours to make sure that you're happy.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah, good points. Well, thank you so much for your time. And obviously all your socials and your contact info will be linked down in the descriptions and the info below. But if someone wants to get in touch with you directly, how can they get in touch with you?
Reach out to me, call me, text me, email me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. You can reach out to our brokerage as well. If you call our office and you ask about a seasonal rental or looking to list your property, they're immediately going to put you in contact with me. Now, keep in mind, I am very busy. So if I don't answer right away, we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. If you do call, I would prefer if you call, just send a text right after. Don't leave a voicemail because we will get pounded with voicemails. A lot of times we won't listen to your voicemail. We'll call you back immediately before listening to it. But yeah, call and text, email, whichever. I'm constantly on my phone. So
Awesome. Well, Jack, again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Go get them.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I hope you enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable knowledge to enhance your home ownership journey here in Southwest Florida. A big thank you to our incredible guests and of course to you, our listeners, for joining us. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to connect, feel free to reach out. You can find us on Instagram at @KevinTremmel_real estate, on Facebook at Kevin Tremmel Real Estate, or visit our website, kevintremmel.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your feedback is crucial and we're always eager to hear from you. Until next time, this is Kevin Tremmel, your host, signing off. See you on the next episode.